Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, where tonight we are going to be talking about why my Windows security stuff keeps popping up and asking me to put in my PIN. But more importantly, we're going to be talking about Tales of the Jedi, the Sith War, and a few thoughts quickly on Episode 4 of Andor. I am Corey, joined as always by Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing tonight, Justin?
Well, first of all, you said more importantly in reference to your Windows security thing going on. I just want to say, Corey, you're a very dear friend of mine. I would hate to see you fall prey to a bad actor, so make sure you keep all of your security details up and golden, okay?
Okay, right. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I made light of the situation, and now now I just feel silly. I just feel silly.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean that's all that I can say. So today we're gonna do Tales of the Jedi, as Corey said. We were talking about doing Lost Stars. Alex actually hasn't got back to me. I think he hates me. No, he's just super busy. But just that one's coming at some point. Not sure exactly when. This is why you should follow us in the Tapcaf Transmissions Twitter account if you don't already. But yeah, do you want to? Is there any news you want to get into first before we cover the two kind of main topics, Corey?
Well, first of all, I will say for the people watching the video version that Eck is not on webcam tonight, so I have found a suitable stand-in for his frame.
I
But
forgot to check.
otherwise, news-wise, I don't think there's been anything.
Oh man.
I had him cut out for a thumbnail for something. So
Yeah, so did I. That's probably pretty much the exact same one.
I just found the most disappointed frame I could. But news-wise,
For those on listening, it's what's his name? Farron?
Perrin, I think.
Perrin, yeah.
Mon Mothma's husband.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's been any big news recently other than me accidentally ruining my Twitter notifications.
Well, yeah, you ratioed a person. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
How many likes does that post have, by the way?
Like 70,000.
70,000? Oh my god, I didn't realize it was that many.
Can I just get those on views on YouTube instead?
Yeah, I've never gotten anything close to that. That's insane. I checked and it wasn't that high. I think it was at like 1,000. I was like, I might get like 4 or 5, but 70, holy shit.
It went far beyond people that I normally speak to, people that got the reference, and it's gone too far, and I'm deleting Twitter or something.
Was there one point where like it just took off?
Yeah, I don't know. It was like during the stream with Charlie before he was rudely whisked away. It started.
Oh, you mean when Charlie didn't do the clip he was going to do, and I said, "Hey, where's the clip?" Did he end up leaving the stream or something?
Yeah, he left the stream.
Okay.
Very sad.
Okay.
But I don't want to talk about the contents of the post. People can go look at my Twitter.
Yeah.
Corey loses on Twitter, or EckhartsLadder on Twitter. You can look at his likes and it'll be there.
I retweeted it as well.
There you go. But yeah,
Charlie's so funny. I just gotta say, because he woke up, he messaged me at like 6 a.m. My time, and he's like, oh, "Got 2 clips ready, gonna have them all out." And I'm like checking at 5 p.m. like 12 hours later. I was like, what's going on? Now I'm the bad guy for making him leave the Kodor stream, or the Old Republic stream rather.
Oh well.
But yeah, not a whole lot in the way of news. I'm just kind of checking some of my some of my favorite sources, and not a whole lot. We got some character guides for Andor, see episodes 1 through 3. There's some stuff coming out about the High Republic. I'm so not tuned into that though. Like phase 2 of the High Republic, not interest me whatsoever.
I mean, I think we felt the same way about the High Republic before Phase 1 came out, and I think both of us largely enjoyed it. So yeah. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not putting too much thought towards it until we get to a Convergence, I think is the first book actually coming out. So
yeah,
I think we got like the early ebook copies, but I usually don't read the early ebooks. I don't
like to read those.
I get the physical copy if I do get them, and then
it's just being set 150 years in the past. Like it removes all interest I have in it. Like I'm sorry. I'm sure it might pay off, but as somebody who's only like, I'm not hardcore to the High Republic. Like I've read the 3 main novels and the junior novel. Like I'm gonna miss a lot of the little winks and connections and nods and stuff that the hardcore fans will really enjoy, and then just having to learn new characters 150 years earlier. It's for me, it was just a really weird choice. But
Yeah, I don't love doing time gaps in general, but again, it's basically the exact same way I felt before High Republic Phase 1 came out, and I did end up liking that. So I'm going to withhold judgment until I actually read the books.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to say.
And what I'm saying right now is that you're being an unreasonable jerk. That is the subtext that you're about to comment on, and that's exactly what's happening.
Would you say, in fact, that I'm not worthy of the effort being put, the tremendous effort being put into the High Republic?
Are we doing this?
Yeah, we'll do this.
Okay.
So there's an individual at Del Rey who both of us follow on Twitter. He's kind of funny, and nothing against the guy, but he says some funny things sometimes that sometimes makes me laugh and shake my head. And I'm just curious to hear, maybe this could be an interesting topic for email submissions. So the individual said basically that working with long-term creative endeavors like a book, given that he works at Del Rey, presents a particular paradox. Creative endeavors require tremendous effort, but a significant percentage of people who will experience the thing you make aren't necessarily deserving of that effort. For one, not quite a paradox. For two, what do you think about that, Corey? Agree or disagree?
I mean, as stated, disagree, because I think, like, on the face of it, that is just a little bit gatekeepy.
Yeah.
But there are elements of that I would agree with if phrased differently, where
it's like the most weenie way to say it. Like that's
like whenever you're making something, there is going to be some segment of the population who reads it or plays it or whatever that feels a level of ownership over it that can be sometimes it's because they like it, sometimes it's because they don't, but in either situation it can make working on that thing more kind of hell. And I think if that's what he was getting at, and that it can be detrimental to the experience of whoever's creating it when that segment of the fan base decides that this thing belongs to me more than it belongs to you, and you're kind of walking on eggshells to try to please those people, where if you don't, rather than say, okay, this isn't for me anymore, they will say, fuck you for making this. Like, that's where I would agree that they'd have a point, but I don't know if that's where they're going with it.
Yeah, because it's almost like don't deserve how, you know, like
that's the crux of it, and I don't think it's very
like, it's very don't deserve because they're stupid, don't deserve because, like you said, they feel ownership. Like that's the kind of
like you could take it as they don't deserve it because they wouldn't understand what I'm saying. It's like, okay, that's stupid, but
yeah. They don't appreciate the editing prowess that's brought. But yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about Andor first, maybe, because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are just interested in the Andor stuff.
Yeah.
And
spoiler free, we'll try to keep it, because next week we'll be doing the full episode on episodes 4 and 5.
Okay, you want to do spoiler free? Okay,
we'll try to do a bit spoiler free, I think.
I just don't. Okay, this is gonna be very short. Okay, give me your short impressions then.
It's good.
Okay. How about you? Let's rank the episode.
Okay, so the problem I had with it was that I was watching it and I felt like I may be in a theoretical 15% of the population that didn't deserve to watch something so good. But
so was it your favorite episode so far?
I don't think I liked it more than 3, but I like what it's setting up a lot. And like, coming from it as someone who does love the kind of references and all that, then episode 4 was chock full of them. And I really do like the way that Andor is doing that over some of the other series, which we talked about a bit in the prior episodes. But like, I've been watching this with Dana, so Dana is all caught up on Andor, and I think she's been enjoying it as well. Like, episode 4 ended, and she's like, oh, that's it? So I think she's hooked now. But like, there were references to some Legends characters, some events like the Gorman Massacre, which a lot of people may know or may not know, but it was kind of setting up for that. And it was the kind of thing that if you don't know what they're talking about, it doesn't detract in any way. Like, you don't need to know any of it to understand what's being said. Like, something
Mhm.
else could have been slotted in there and made up for the purposes of it, and it would have served the story just as well. But instead, they did the research, they got those kinds of things, and I always appreciate when that exists.
Yeah. So I, I agree. I'm just kind of wondering whether Andor, like, is it suffering a bit, kind of based on the Dana approach there, where like the episode ends and it's like that's it. Do you think it's suffering from being less of a traditional TV show format and more of a, kind of long movie format? Because I'm also rewatching The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett, and I think one thing that's really strong about those early episodes, or those shows, especially the early episodes of Mando, is how it does feel like self-contained little adventures each episode. Now that kind of works well for that show because it's supposed to be like a serialized kind of Western fantasy thing. But do you think Andor's moved too far away from that?
I don't like. I think there's room for both formats, but I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I kind of prefer
Mm-hmm.
this for the kind of story it is telling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think having Andor have a quest of the day that he's trying to do would really suit the show particularly well. Like, what Dana was saying, I don't think was, oh, that's it, as in there should have been something more to it. I think it was more, the
Mm-hmm.
episode's like 30 minutes long, and the rest of the stuff we're watching is Big Brother, Survivor, or Marvel
Right.
shows that all are 45 minutes to an hour long. It was just the runtime rather than anything.
Okay.
And I know that it hasn't been set on Tatooine yet, and I know that's a big point away from it for
Mm,
you, but I'm
yeah.
I'm
Big
sure
downside.
someone will say Tatooine.
It's got to come up. Most important dust ball in the whole galaxy. But yeah, so I agreed. I liked it. For me, I liked episode 3 more just because I do think it kind of was more emotionally complete and it kind of rounded off the arc. But I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll be getting a similar version of that soon with kind of this adventure they're on now. And we'll talk about it more, as Corey said, when we do our breakdown next week, where we cover episodes 4 and 5. And we'll be watching. I'm excited because
Yeah.
we had kind of 2 weeks where we had already seen the episodes, and now we get something new next week, which is nice.
Yeah, we'll be in the same boat as everyone else finally, which is
Mhm.
bad for work because I can't pre-write the videos going out those days.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk about Tales of the Jedi. This is the second to last of the comic series. This is the Sith Wars. That's what it's called, right? The
Yep,
Sith
the Sith
War.
War.
Another one, and I gotta say, at this point, I'm feeling kind of done with Tales of the Jedi. It's just, it feels like there's too much happening. It feels like they can't, like, these comics needed to slow down, get more issues, tell less stories, have fewer conflicts.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel over it. Like, I'm reading it. It's going in one ear and out the other. Like, the only thing I really care about is Ulic Droma, what's going on with him. And I mean, I already know what happened. So, but it's just like, and at this point too, it's even starting to feel like a retread of the first issues, where it's like, oh look, the Onderon's being attacked again,
Yeah.
Coruscant's being attacked in almost the exact same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of the specific beats are done in the same way, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's more characters introduced, but then none of them ever really get any significant amount of development. Nomi Sunrider, who has been such a prominent character so far, really takes a back seat in this one. Like, there's beyond Ulic, no one really goes anywhere as a character. Like, I
And it
guess
tries.
Mandalore kind of does, but
Yeah, and they're trying to make it go places, because like there's that one moment where those three Jedi are killed, and also where Ulic's one of his students is killed, and it's like you could tell you're supposed to feel something there,
yeah,
but we haven't got a single scene of these characters where they're not fighting something or running to a
yeah,
starfighter or flying around. It's like you don't fall in love with characters just by them being there. Like, you got to give some work to
yeah.
it. Um,
So I guess to quickly summarize what's going on, we had Ulic Droma and Exar who had been appointed by Marka Regnos as the Darth Lords of the Sith. And
they both got there in their own way.
Yeah. Poison or anger, or anger is a poison. We should put some people on looking into the themes of that. But so Exar Kun went to Yavin 4. He started planning a bunch of stuff to lure in some of the Jedi. I was kind of confused on what was going on there exactly, how people were so gullible. Because, like, we have our kind of wider cast of 6 to 10 Jedi that have been around for the last few issues. A few of them ended up getting bamboozled by Exar Kun.
One of them looks like a Fortnite skin.
Yeah. Well, they're all going to come to Fortnite when someone misunderstands the job to add Tales of the Jedi characters next month. But some stay with K. Droma. So I was kind of confused at the start because I didn't realize what the split was there. But yeah, so a bunch of them decide, like, oh, maybe Exar has some good ideas and isn't lying to us, even though he's sucked the last few times we've talked to him. So they kind of recruit a few of those Jedi to Exar's side. Ulic has recruited the Mandalorians, who there's like 3 panels of there's war going on between the Sith and the Republic, but also now the Mandalorians are attacking, and they've failed, so now they work for Ulic. Like, the first issue is Ulic duels with Mandalore to make him
which was cool. To make him
join.
Yeah, and they drop the nuke at this point. The Mandos drop a nuke. And at this point, aren't the Mandalorians not humans? They're are they the Tong or whatever?
There's a lot of Tong, but I think they are still like the mixed species.
Right.
Everyone's welcome. I don't know if that's established. Like, I don't know that that's a thing that Tales of the Jedi takes as a granted point yet, but like, at least lore-wise.
At the end, you see like see the new Mandalore come in, and he's one of the Tong. I guess the old Mandalore, because you can kind of tell the Tong of the big kind of predator head. So I guess the old Mandalore would have been just a human, probably.
Yeah. I wasn't sure how I felt about the Mandalorians in this first issue, because it's got the whole they're super fighty and warlike established, but then the fight, their whole honor thing is usually played up to a just almost hilarious extent, but the fight between Ulic and Mandalore was just so stupidly skewed towards Mandalore, but then Ulic still wins. And it just felt like that was kind of undermining the usual stupid Mando ethos, which may have been the point that, like, oh, these super warlike people are not great, not epic.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same issue with the rest of Tales of the Jedi. Like, it doesn't slow down and tell us why we should care about these Mandalorians. It gives us 2 or 3 pages of context, and it's all fighting. It's like, why are they fighting? Who are these people? Why do we care? Why does the Sith getting the Mandalorians have? Because another problem with these comics is there's no real sense of stakes, and there's no sense of like attrition or war. It's like every time the Republic loses a shipyard, they respond with a fleet of 10,000 ships, and it's like the Sith get 20 new Sith Lords in 30 seconds, and now they're ultimately powerful. It's like, it's just silly. So like,
all to do the exact same attack on the same planets in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the Mandalorians could have been interesting if they were played into as this kind of third party that could have, actually turned the tide of war. And that is kind of what they go for in the comics, but it's like, it's not earned. So it feels like a waste.
It's just the Sith need a new army now because, like, the actual Sith is all dead. So they need someone on top of the Krath to fight with Ulic and Exar. But so they just kind of get thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, if they're gonna do the same, literally the exact same battles of, like, oh, they've snuck a Sith fleet into the Republic using the Sith tricks of Alima Keto, like, rather than tell the same war 3 different times, including, like, oh, they're going to Andor and Duxon, so they're going between the Duxon and Andron in the atmosphere bridge,
Yeah.
having the same battle on the planet in the same way. You may as well just have one war that you're covering over 30 to 36 issues rather than having
Right.
those 30 to 36 issues covering 3 different iterations of the exact same war.
Exactly. And with that, you could have had time to actually explore these characters. You could have made, like, the only moment I really like in the book is when Ulic Droma kills his brother, because it's like you kind of feel it a bit there, but it's like everything else just pretty much falls flat, and arguably even that moment falls a little flat, because it's like it's so rushed. There's been so many characters that come and go, so many battles that end up meaning nothing. They're just stacked upon each other. It's almost in a way like a microcosm of like the issues of the era as a whole, where it's like the same thing over and over again, to the point where it's like kind of hard to even remember like which battle we're in at this point or whatever.
Yeah, like especially when we're supposed to believe that what's going on with Ulic isn't really him. It's not his fault. It's the Sith poison and stuff. When he's the only one that's actually getting any focus as a character, that ends up not feeling super great. But so Exar and Ulic are kind of doing their own parts of the war, where Ulic has his Mandalorian soldiers and the Krath, where they're kind of engaging the war against the Republic, while Exar Kun is trying to do more of the Sith magics kind of thing. He steals a holocron, then he just busts it open with all of his little Jedi proteges to infect them with more Sith people to bring them properly to his side. But then the first time they're in a battle on Duxon, they leave anyways. The only one who wasn't infected was the Cathar Credo, who we learn throughout the course of this comic or this series as well as the prior ones, that he really fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to add to that. I'm just going to agree.
He blows up in a sad way where Ulic realizes he's been betrayed by Alima. They had their attack on Coruscant. He got captured, and Alima kind of told the Mandalorians, no, Ulic totally said we should get out of here. He's captured.
Which I didn't quite get that. I guess she was trying to grab power for herself.
Yeah, which, like, to do what with? I don't know if she thought that this wasn't a good opportunity to attack, or she'd get a better one later. But yeah, so Ulic and Exar make a plan to send her on a suicide mission that she doesn't realize is a suicide mission. But then Credo is like, I want to help too, and he's just been super annoying up to this point. So they realize that he's going to be loyal to them, but also that he's just incredibly annoying. So they send him off to explode when they explode the Kron Drift, which is a major place in Star Wars that gets formed here.
Yeah, it's like so that they've kind of introduced a new super weapon. Or was this one that was?
This was the one that Frieden had, or Nagasato had, rather.
Yeah, so it's kind of like sucks up the energy of a star and harnesses it, but they end up killing themselves too. Yeah. So
they're using that to this is a very convoluted plan where they're trying to blow up the Kron Nebula, or the Kron stuff. I don't know if it's the right term yet, because that'll send the explosion to Ossus, and that'll drive the Jedi away, so that Exar Kun can go in and steal the knowledge from the Jedi. But if they have to evacuate, will he have time to get in and take what he wants and get out because he wasn't looking for anything in particular, was he?
No, I don't think so. He was just kind of like sacking it to get knowledge.
Yeah, and then a tree planted itself over the lightsabers he wanted to steal. So that comes back up in Dark Empire. That's Udbanar. But
he survives the explosion.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not into the comics. Like, reading it, I'm not enjoying it. I'm like looking at the side of the screen, like, okay, I'm 75% done.
Well, did you like when they had a Bofa treat?
That was one of my forward notes. Bofa treat. I was like, what a more innocent era where you can give a child a Bofa treat. Yeah. So that was one of my notes. The other one was I had
We've had to suspend Master Voto for going around and offering all the Padawans a Bofa treat.
Well, Master Odo, what's Bofa? Both of these nuts. I had Forost mentioned. Oh, I guess Double Blade is kind of the big one because I think this is the first use of the double-bladed lightsaber.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, because this came out before the prequel, so definitely a lot of Legends fans pointed to it as perhaps influencing George Lucas. I don't know if there's ever been a statement either way.
Yeah.
But it's possible. I kind of figure it's also it is I think a pretty obvious
Yeah.
change, but it's it's executed pretty well. It would have been nice to maybe give it a bit more kind of a bit more not levity, but a bit more drama, but still pretty cool. It's a double-sided blue lightsaber as well, because back at this point, well, for one, he's using his Jedi crystal, I guess, but red didn't always mean bad. Lots of bad guys have blue lightsabers, like Palpatine in Dark Empire has blue lightsaber even.
Yeah, and before the prequels, like what a Sith was still not super well established in particular. So that's why we have all the Sith species here. I think this ends up getting worked in, like all this stuff from Tales of the Jedi about the Sith tends to get worked in a little bit more than some of the other theories of like the Sith were the Nogri, so Vader was the Lord of the Nogri. I'm so glad that isn't what happened. Like I know that was like a super popular thing for a while, and I that would have sucked.
Mm-hmm.
But they say the holocron, the Sith holocron, is like 100,000 years old, which is clearly just not true, because the Sith didn't learn how to make holocrons until around 28,000 from the Rakata. That part as well. Well, the Sith as a species might have existed. They had to exist.
That's fair, but they wouldn't have been making holocrons probably.
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't have, because the Rakatans taught them how to do that. So which means the Jedi, how'd the Jedi learn how to do it? Because weren't the Jedi also doing it? We're not going to examine whether that makes sense.
Let's not get too into it. We'll talk about it next week.
No, it won't. We'll be better.
Looking at my notes, like there's other things. Like at one point, Exar Kun says that he's made hundreds of temples. Like, boy, where'd you get the time?
He has a whole army of the Sith Masasi simps that are just willing to throw their lives away for him. They're definitely willing to build the temples that I don't know that he really has a use for them.
Yeah.
But
like, is it just all temples on Yavin? But anyway, the way this eventually ends is Ulic Droma, he kills his brother in combat. I think that's the third time his brother loses that arm as well.
Yeah.
Because there's the original time, there's the first time he loses the artificial one, then there's this one. Then there's then Nomi Sunrider kind of pulls like a Revan almost. Well, not a Revan, but who does this happen to in Legends? I'm trying to think, where they take the power from them, basically. Well,
Mitra thinks the council did it to her. But
right.
It was Malachor that actually did it.
Right. That's right. And then he kind of tells them that while this is happening, there's the battle in Andor, and he tells them that Exar Kun is on Yavin, and Kun attempts to do some Sith magic where essentially his spirit will be free to roam the void. He sacrifices all the Masasi in one of the big temples, and his spirit, presumably the temple that they visit in the Jedi Academy trilogy, the one across the lake.
Yeah.
I think there was even a reference to them stepping on stones to cross the lake in the book, and there's something like that in the comic as well.
And there's the reference from Vodosios Bass rather, about how this isn't the final time they're going to meet when he kills him. Because like Kevin J. Anderson, who wrote those books, was one of the writers for this comic series as well.
So yeah, he is successful in transcending death, but he's kind of just. I actually really like the second to last, I think, frame where it's just his face just screaming, in like the dark. I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, and he's kind of stuck there until, for a few thousand years, basically 4,000 years, pretty much.
Yeah. So Ulic has to be one of my least favorite redemptions in Star Wars, and I think that's just something that I don't love very often. But Ulic's like. no one should have been mad at Nomi for doing what she did. Like, Ulic
No.
has just been a huge pain in the ass the entire time. He literally just killed his brother, and rather than cut him in half, Nomi took away his force powers. Like, that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, people are... I think it was Oswillum who was like, oh, I know this is going to be hard for you, Ulic. But, like, he hasn't really repented in any way. He hasn't been redeemed. He's just kind of stopped doing things for the moment after killing Kay. And I guess that kind of goes back to the whole it's the poison rather than him. But I don't know how much
It's
of it was the
also like
poison.
maybe it's like a religious thing where it's like there's nothing worse than the absence of God. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just being alive and not being connected to the Force is worse than being dead.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we see with what's her name, computer lady in Children of the Jedi and the subsequent novels.
Yeah.
Where she's like she can't get the Force back and she freaks out.
Yeah, like I don't have that much sympathy for Ulic. That's
No, I don't either. No, I don't either. And because like either way, whether he was hit with some poison or not, it was still his plan.
Yeah.
It
And he
still
was
a dumb
already
plan.
kind of falling.
He was already
like, yeah.
He was already towing the line, or not towing the line. He was already stepping over the line a little bit. So
Yeah.
No.
So Ulic, you're on my naughty list. You're not getting a Christmas present. But there is the next, I guess the next set of Tales of the Jedi, is that Redemption?
Yeah, Redemption's the final one.
I wonder what he could possibly do to redeem himself.
Probably get killed and call it at that.
It's so hard to get to the Wikipedia page for any of these
I know.
anymore because it just takes
Whenever
me
I
to
search
the
Tales
show.
of the Jedi, I just accept that I'm going to click the show one and click other uses and just go from there.
All right, there we go. Yeah, it's Redemption. Okay.
I can't believe they use the same font and the same logo and stuff. Or maybe not the exact same font, but the logo is the same.
I love the. I assume that's Ulic. I love this front cover art on the Redemption Wikipedia page.
Let me check this out.
It's got the statue of
Yeah, you're looking
of Nagasato's head in the background,
Yeah.
I guess, and just the facial expression on Ulic. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Ulic. Oh, I'm not going to say that. Ulic looks like he's nutting so hard the whole Jedi Order's feeling it.
What happened to? Oh, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, I changed my mind, didn't I?
Apparently.
Look at the size of his hands as well, man.
Right, I'm gonna have to put that up on the video. Rather than being Perrin, you are now gonna be Ulic Droma.
Fair enough.
I guess the only other note I have that we haven't talked about yet is how when they're doing the Coruscant attack, I forget who it was, but they're just like, I've seen that the war room is where the battle will be decided. No shit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably a good place to get your Jedi Master.
Like, it isn't what they meant, but I mean, the way they said it, if I was there, it's how I would have taken it.
Yeah. I'm ready to be done with these, to be honest.
Right.
I would rather be rereading Jedi Prince than this, for sure.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a generally negative review of the Sith War. I didn't hate it, but I like all the beats are things we've seen before. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know. I'm over it.
So are we gonna talk about Redemption at any point?
Yeah, well, we've come this far. We might as well finish it. Like, I don't get halfway through Children of the Jedi and just call it quits.
I mean, we finished. I do what I'm gonna.
But yeah, I'm gonna do what I did for Children of the Jedi. I'm just gonna read it, but I'm gonna read it very quickly.
Yeah. Are we gonna try to do that before Tales of the Jedi starts, or do we do it later on?
Fuck. We should probably try to do it beforehand, but we'll see.
Or do we just do over like the next 6 episodes? We have a 3-minute segment of talking about an issue of redemption each.
I'm down for that. That could work.
All right, maybe we'll give that a try. Next week's episode, we'll talk about one issue of redemption. I think there's actually only 5, and that would probably bring us right up to Tales of the Jedi, the show's release. But
Okay.
Okay, so we do have a few questions in email, but before we get to that, maybe we should just talk about the next couple episodes as well. Lay out what's going to happen, or the rough plan.
I mean, the good thing is for next week, don't have to worry about anything because we're going to be doing Andor.
Yep.
So then after that, maybe that's either Lost Stars or Star by Star.
Yeah, so the episode after next week is supposed to be Star by Star. We need to reconfirm with Ilkin. Because he was already... I ran the tentative date of the 6th past him, but it won't be that. I'll have to message him again and see if the 13th works, but we'll get locked in with that. And we are going to be doing Andor episodes 6 and 7 the following week, so that's the next 3 episodes, largely handled.
Yep.
I am looking forward to getting to the KOTOR comics more than the Tales of the Jedi comics, because
for sure.
They are... I've read bits and pieces of them, and I've read like individual arcs, but I've generally enjoyed that a bit more than Tales. Let's see. Where are the questions? I only copied down a few because I tried to stay with the ones that were like either general Star Wars or Tales specifically. But considering we're 30 minutes in, we can probably get to some of the other ones that we've been holding off on.
Sure.
So first up, we have from Brandon, who says, Dark Greetings. Which Legends or canon character do you guys think would have the most annoying Twitter presence? I feel like Admiral Dala would be pretty cringe.
That's a really, really good question.
I feel like anytime I read a tweet by Borsk, I'd get infuriated.
Yeah, because he so openly lies. I feel like a lot of the I get like NFT vibes from a lot of the CIS. Like Sandhill was definitely shilling NFTs. I feel like maybe that would get kind of annoying.
Raynar Thal, I feel like, is going to be just insufferable.
Thraken would be really bad too, with like the because he'd be playing up like the fake news angle and shit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Thraken, followed by everybody in the CIS.
God, there was someone, I think it was Rosh that I said would be like really big into NFTs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
Rosh totally would.
Basically, our whole conversation about because we've answered who would be most into NFTs before.
Yeah.
I think all of those answers transfer basically 1-to-1 on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus a lot of the political figures.
I feel like the clones, just because there's so goddamn many of them, and they all probably
they all have the numbers at the end of their names, so everyone just thinks they're bots.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's like they can break any Twitter poll they want, where they just call all the boys in.
That'd be...
Jabba would definitely be like horny on main.
Lando's trying to get into a deal to buy Twitter, and then he just figures out how many of them are clone accounts, and he's trying to say that they were misleading him on their clone accounts.
I hate to compare as well. Yeah,
I hate to compare Lando to Elon Musk. He was just the first Star Wars businessman I thought of there.
Yeah, fair enough.
No disrespect to Lando. All right, thank you, Brandon. Our next question comes from Joel, who says, do you think that the new canon of Star Wars material, both books and screen, have done a better job of making or of having jump-on points for new fans to enter compared to Legends?
Probably. I mean, on screen, I don't think you can really make the comparison because there was only really the Clone Wars for canon, but so I wouldn't say for that really, especially where the Clone Wars was very arc-like. You can jump in at pretty much any point. Maybe you got to go back a couple episodes, but like they didn't even air them in order, so it's like, who fucking cares? But for books, I mean, yeah, it feels like it. Like there haven't been any huge series yet. Like there's been like the Alphabet Squadron one and the Thrawn. The what is the new Thrawn series called again?
Ascendancy.
Ascendancy, right? Like that's not very newcomer friendly if you're not coming in at book one. But otherwise, yeah, I probably.
Yeah. Yeah, like the major thing is just having so you either have an almost reset to the status quo at the end of a book, if you want to have everything be accessible, which is how the original Bantam books kind of addressed it, where there were some individual things that had changed, but most of them, like it's Warlord of the Week, it's Imperial Super Weapon of the Week, and you could go from there. But then once you get to the Del Rey era, where you have the Yuzon Vong War into the Dark Nest Crisis, into Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi, you couldn't really come in the middle of NJO. You couldn't really come in between NJO and Dark Nest without really being a bit lost. So I think the fact that there is screen stuff is what makes New Canon a bit more accessible in that way, because you can still have the continually evolving universe, but there can also be the expectation that, like, all right, if you're getting into this, you've probably seen at least either one of the TV shows, which is kind of the new basis to jump off of, or the movie, which is or like the sequel trilogy, which is another basis they can jump off of, which they haven't yet, but presumably is coming. So I think having the more prominent jumping off points is a benefit in that area.
Yep, agreed.
Thank you, Joel. We've had okay. So the one of these is specifically about Andor. Oh, actually, both of these are specifically about Andor, and some are a bit spoilery. So I would probably wait until next week for both of those. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is actually kind of related to what we were just talking about. From Tristan, we have as the Vong War, as far as the Vong go, I like how Star Wars kind of delves into an alien invasion storyline that sort of overcomes its villain of the week stories to use, or stories it used to arguably embrace prior to NJO. However, in your opinions, do you think they should have gone further? While I personally enjoy the Vong as villains, I sometimes feel and concur with your opinion that they seem to be almost just another culture that could very easily exist within the Star Wars galaxy. I really think they should have gone all out and make the Vong more abstract tonally. I know you guys somewhat touched upon this a couple books ago, but if you could, how would you bring about a more eldritch tone to the whole Vong storyline? As always, thanks for wonderful content you two produce. Best regards.
It's a good question. I think there's a few like the Vaughn. It's largely just how they're presented, which is like the opposite of what we expect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just like different. It's like pretty much always the exact opposite. Like people don't like pain. The Yuuzhan Vong like pain. People rely on technology. The Yuuzhan Vong hate technology. They don't care for, comfort. Like all of these things that kind of what you expect from Star Wars, they're the exact opposite. And I think that ends up becoming a little bit boring. And it sometimes almost feels, we've kind of called them edgy sometimes. It does feel edgy because it feels like they're purposely trying to be kind of a counter. And I think they could have just made it different rather than the opposite. I don't think Eldritch is really kind of ever what the Vong are going for. I mean, they could have, that's kind of like, I guess, what Mass Effect does with their extra galactic threat.
And I think like we do get a bit more of a Star Wars story in that direction with Abeloth in Fate of the Jedi.
Yep. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess if I were going to, I would make them maybe to the point where like even the like aspects of their culture are never fully explained or, yeah.
Yeah, like I think one of the things that the NJO is trying to do that kind of precludes having something that is so alien that they can never understand it, that they are going for that synthesis towards the end of like how can you bring those different peoples together, and having something that just is entirely irreconcilable is not going to play into that very well. So and I do think we got something more in that direction with Abeloth later on. And even if I don't necessarily love how Fate of the Jedi played out in its specifics, they at least did kind of try that type of storyline.
Yep.
I am looking forward to getting to Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi because it's been so long since I've properly read them. And when I
Hmm.
was reading Fate of the Jedi, I was like reading the books in class,
Yeah.
so I wasn't able to pay as much attention. Like that was before I was doing anything where Star Wars lore was my job, so I
Hmm.
didn't have to engage with it in the same way. So
Hmm.
I'm curious what my opinion of it will be when we get back to it.
Yeah, me too.
Um. All right, and another question that we've been kind of holding off on. Another one from Joel, who thinks, "Do you think, or who asks, do you think it's fair to compare the Star Wars Disney Plus shows with each other since they're all trying to do very different things with different tones and feels? For example, Mandalorian is a more lighthearted adventure show compared to Andor's darker and
I feel like we
grittier
answered this
fantasy.
one, didn't
Did
we?
we?
Yeah, I think we answered
Oh
this one
yeah,
last
we
week.
did. Sorry.
Yeah,
Right, I had a different one that I meant to star.
it's okay. It's all right.
Okay. So I think that actually gets to the majority of our backlog.
All right, so I guess we'll just call it a short episode today, which is fine for me because we'll probably have a longer one next week. And yeah, I'm also going to do, I think, a review checkup next week. We got to get back to doing. We've got to get back to doing our Glup Shido appreciation segment as well.
Yeah.
I don't know who's. I don't know if it's me or
It's
you.
supposed to be. It's supposed to be mine. Technically, I
Okay,
should have been coming to each of these episodes with one, but I just haven't, and I haven't brought it up. You haven't brought it up. Very nice of you, but we
soon,
will.
soon. Yeah, that's all I got. If there's anything else you want to touch on tonight, Corey?
No, we both got other stuff that we had to do tonight, so having a shorter episode is makes sense.
Yep.
Andor next week. Star by Star week after that.
All right. Goodbye.